People think they know Sarah Ferguson. They think they've already seen her fall, her scandals, her embarrassments, her exile from the royal inner circle. They think whatever she had to lose, she already lost it years ago. And that is exactly why no one saw this coming. Because the most dangerous person in any palace isn't the one with power. It's the one who's been pushed aside, laughed at, underestimated, and still remembers everything. Fergie has survived storms that would have crushed anyone else. She's been mocked in headlines, dragged through scandal, written off as reckless, messy, embarrassing, pushed out, pulled back in, forgiven, forgotten, over and over again. But through every humiliation, she learned something the palace never teaches publicly, yet fears privately: how to stay quiet while watching everything, how to listen, how to remember. And now, according to people close to her, she's standing on the edge of a move no one ever expected. A tell-all that doesn't recycle tabloid gossip or rehash tired scandals, but pulls back the curtain on stories the palace hoped would never be spoken out loud. And sitting right at the center of that coming storm is one name: Meghan Markle. This isn't about jealousy. This isn't about rivalry. This is about recognition. Because long before Meghan ever walked beside Harry, long before the cameras, the fairy tale, the global spotlight, Fergie was watching. She saw the introductions, she recognized the rooms, she noticed the faces, she understood the strategy unfolding quietly in places most people don't even know exist. Dim lounges, private corners, doors that only open for the right people at the right time. According to insiders, Fergie isn't interested in attacking Meghan publicly just for attention. What she holds is far more dangerous than rumor. It's memory. It's the real story of Meghan's early years inside elite social circles, years before royal life, years before palace protocols, years before the carefully polished image. Stories shaped in exclusive rooms where influence trades hands quietly, where careers are built without headlines, where alliances form without witnesses. And Fergie saw it because she lived that world herself. When Meghan finally entered royal life, when she secured her place beside Harry, sources say Sarah Ferguson reached out not as an enemy, not as competition, but with expectation. Expectation of acknowledgement, of shared understanding, of loyalty maybe, or at least respect. They shared connections. They shared history. According to those close to Fergie, they even shared moments from Meghan's early climb that very few people knew about. And then nothing. No reply, no returned call, no acknowledgement at all, just silence. A silence that spoke louder than words. Meghan, according to insiders, acted as if she had outgrown the people who had witnessed her beginnings, as if becoming a duchess erased the need for those who knew where the journey actually started. For Fergie, that cut deep. Not because Meghan married a prince, but because she behaved like she no longer needed the woman who had watched her rise. And for someone who has survived every flavor of betrayal the royal system can manufacture, that kind of dismissal doesn't fade quietly. It changes things. That's the moment, sources say, when a quiet observer became a potential threat. This was never about envy. People familiar with both women say Fergie recognized herself in Meghan, ambitious, strategic, determined to climb. But Meghan made a critical mistake. She believed she was the only one who knew how to play the game. And in royal life, walking away from someone like Sarah Ferguson doesn't close a chapter. It opens a much darker one. As whispers of Fergie's possible tell all began circulating, the palace didn't respond with unity. Instead, it fractured, quietly, uneasily. King Charles, according to insiders, grew nervous. He knows exactly how much Fergie has seen. She was there for the scandals no one talks about anymore, the private arrangements, the moments behind closed doors that never reach the papers. If she speaks freely, shadows tied to Andrew, old compromises, long-buried mistakes could crawl back into the light. Because of that, sources say Charles is willing to soften, to negotiate, to make small concessions, not out of weakness, but out of fear. Fear rooted in memory. Fear rooted in history. Fear rooted in knowing that Fergie doesn't speculate, she remembers. Prince William, on the other hand, isn't interested in negotiating. Insiders say he refuses to bend. He has nothing tied to Fergie's past, nothing she can expose, nothing she can hold over him. To him, rewarding someone for holding private knowledge like a weapon sets a dangerous precedent. So he stays firm, calm, unmoved. And caught in the middle of these two positions, one cautious, one defiant, is Meghan. Because here's the part the palace understands clearly. It doesn't need to protect her. And that's where the real danger begins. Over time, darker whispers began to surface. Whispers that added weight to Fergie's silence. Claims from circles connected to Meghan's earlier social life suggested that Harry was not the original target. That her ambitions aimed even higher. That Prince Andrew was once viewed as a possible path into royal proximity. If true, it changes everything. It reframes the story. It suggests Harry was not plan A, but plan B. And in royal strategy, that distinction matters. Another whisper comes from someone said to have known Meghan long before the palace. A longtime friend of Harry reportedly warned him, saying he recognized her not from Hollywood, not from acting circles, but from yacht parties, private gatherings, places where wealthy men, models, and social climbers mix far from public view. These are not stories printed in magazines. They're the kind whispered in expensive rooms by people who were actually there. And every single one of those whispers intersects with Sarah Ferguson's world. That's what frightens Meghan. Not gossip, not anonymous talk, but confirmation. Because Fergie isn't guessing. She knows the timelines, she knows the rooms, she knows the people, she knows how the journey really began. People love to dismiss Fergie as chaotic, reckless, unserious, but they forget the most important thing about her. She survives. No matter the fall, no matter the humiliation, no matter the ridicule, she always finds her way back. And through all of it, she mastered the one skill the palace fears most, staying quiet while remembering everything. Those close to her say Fergie is not someone you ignore, not someone you use and discard. People who turn their back on her eventually learn that her silence has an expiration date. Those who spent time around both women say Fergie noticed Meghan early. She watched the circles she moved through. The introductions she received, the doors that opened with surprising ease, not because she was judging, but because she recognized the pattern. She had lived it herself decades earlier. Some sources even claim Fergie played a small but meaningful role in Meghan's early social rise. A comment here, an introduction there, a door nudged open at the right moment, quiet assistance that never demanded credit, which makes Meghan's later distancing not just cold but foolish. Because Fergie isn't just a former duchess. She's a vault. To understand this story fully, you have to understand Soho House. Not as a restaurant, not as a hotel, but as a world within a world. A place where lighting is dim for a reason, where privacy is intentional, where deals happen quietly and lives change without announcements. Careers don't rise there by luck. They rise through placement. Insiders say Soho House was Meghan's true launch pad, the place where she met people she couldn't have reached on her own, where introductions were curated, where her path toward royal proximity quietly took shape. She wasn't wandering aimlessly, she was being guided. And Fergie knew that world. She knew the rules, she knew the players, which is why the palace fears what she might say about those early days. If Soho House was the stage, then two men stood behind the curtain. Marcus Anderson and Ron Burkle. Not just friends, not casual contacts, architects, gatekeepers. Marcus decided who sat where, who met whom, who gained access. Burkle provided pathways into circles most people only dream about. Private flights, exclusive gatherings, worlds overlapping royalty without announcing themselves. And Fergie knew them too. Now, years later, her patience is thinning. Her protection is fading. Her position is slipping. And a woman with nothing left to lose becomes unpredictable. She survived worse than headlines, worse than outrage. And what she holds now is more valuable than palace favor. She holds the real story, not the fairy tale, not the polished version, the one built in whisper-filled rooms, the one shaped by guidance, access, and strategy, the one that traces a straight line from Soho House to private flights to curated circles to the prince. Sources say Fergie can trace every step, and Meghan knows it. Because in every kingdom, secrets decide who rises and who falls. And when a secret is finally spoken, it doesn't just crack the fairy tale, it collapses it. And according to those closest to to her, Sarah Ferguson may finally be ready to speak. And what makes this moment even more dangerous is the timing. Because this isn't happening when Fergie is secure, protected, or comfortably folded into palace life. This is happening when her relevance is being questioned, when invitations are thinning, when her safety net feels fragile. And that's exactly when people stop protecting illusions and start telling truths. People close to her say she's tired of being treated like a footnote, tired of watching others rewrite history while pretending she was never there. She remembers the looks exchanged in quiet rooms, the introductions that felt casual but weren't, the way certain doors opened far too smoothly for someone with no obvious leverage. She remembers the way names were dropped softly, not loudly, the way favors were never written down, the way influence moved without fingerprints. And she remembers who watched, who helped, who stayed silent, and who suddenly pretended none of it ever happened. That's the part Meghan underestimated. Because reinvention only works when the past stays buried. And the past never stays buried when someone like Fergie is still breathing, still watching, still waiting. Those close to Meghan insist she knows exactly how dangerous this situation is. Not because Fergie might exaggerate, but because she won't. Because the most powerful stories are the ones told calmly, without anger, without theatrics, simply laid out as memory. Dates, rooms, names, patterns, no accusations needed, just connections. And once those connections are spoken, they can never be unheard. The palace understands this too. That's why the response has been so uneven. Some want silence at any cost. Others believe silence bought through fear poisons the institution itself. And while they argue behind closed doors, Meghan stands exposed in a way she's never been before. No royal shield, no obligation to protect her image, no reason for the system to intervene if the story turns uncomfortable. Because unlike others, Meghan is expendable. And that realization changes everything. Fergie, for all her chaos, understands loyalty in a way Meghan never did. Loyalty to people who knew you before the spotlight. Loyalty to those who helped quietly. Loyalty to shared memory. Breaking that bond doesn't trigger revenge immediately. It triggers patience. And patience in this world is far more dangerous. People who know Fergie say she doesn't want destruction for the sake of it. She wants acknowledgement, recognition, the truth to exist somewhere other than inside her own head. But if she's pushed far enough, if she's dismissed one last time, she won't soften the edges to protect anyone else's narrative. Because once someone has been mocked, humiliated, and survived it all, fear loses its power. And Meghan knows that if Fergie ever stops caring about consequences, the story won't be about scandal. It will be about exposure, about how nothing in that fairy tale was accidental, about how carefully the path was laid, about how many people stood in the shadows helping shape the outcome. And when that happens, the palace won't rush to save her, because crowns protect themselves first. And in the end, the most terrifying thing for Meghan isn't what Sarah Ferguson might say. It's that when she finally speaks, no one will stop her. No one will stop her. No one will stop her. No one will